Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long, and I am here with my co-explorer and co-host, Amy.
Hello.
We are in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, coming to you from the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. And we have a weird and slightly unsettling, but a lot of fun show for you today. Today's episode is about the only town in America where the dead have the majority vote.
By a long shot.
By a long shot.
Yeah.
We are going to introduce you to a place in California called Colma. It's just south of San Francisco, and it is, I think it's one of the most unusual places we've ever visited, because I think towns here straddle one line or the other. They're either happening places with lots going on, and hey, check out our brew pubs, or they're ghost towns that we like to visit and dig up history on and everything. And
well, this could be a ghost town.
Colma straddles both these lines because it is a city where people live and work and carry out their lives, but it is also a town that is for the dead.
Very much so.
Very much. So if you like dark history, paranormal stuff, this is the episode for you. It's a place that we visited not too long ago and had a really good time. Even in just the very small amount of time that we got to be here, it was just really very, very interesting.
So I think you have to explain to people why you say that this town straddles these two different worlds, because we know the story of Colma, and I'm sure there are some people out there that do, but like us just a few months ago, we'd never heard of this town. We had no idea what it was all about, and that this town is known for a specific thing.
Yeah. I guess that's a good introduction. Let me paint the background a little bit for you, right? Let me get dramatic for just a second, if you'll allow. After 115 episodes of the Unscaled Travel Show, let me get dramatic for a second here. Okay. California's gold rush, 1849, had pushed the population of San Francisco to its limits. Disease caused the death rate to soar. People were just dropping and being buried wherever they fell, basically. At one point, San Francisco had almost 30 cemeteries inside the city. And if you've ever been to San Francisco and you know how small it actually is, 30 cemeteries is a lot. Okay. Put it in perspective. Today, they have 2 cemeteries. Okay. The cemeteries around that time, around the turn of the 20th century, around 1900, they were full. And that's not an exaggeration. So a bold plan was required. Drastic times, after all, required drastic measures. The land was needed for the living. So one of the fastest growing cities in the world was out of room, so it made more by evicting the dead. And that's exactly what they did. The city came together and they were like, there's a lot of valuable land for businesses, for homes, for schools, for everything that we need. But they're all cemeteries.
If it weren't for those pesky dead people,
this would be a really nice place.
Right.
If it wasn't for all
awful. It's truly awful. But that was kind of the thinking, right?
That's exactly what it was. San Francisco really got tired of the dead taking up all the prime real estate. I mean, the cemeteries, I understand at the time, right? They wanted people to be able to, dead people, your loved ones, to be able to look out on the harbor for all eternity and everything. But other people came along and said, that's a really good place that a condo
I want that view for me. Yeah. Grandpa doesn't need it anymore.
Look, Grandmama passed away a few years ago. She don't need that view for the rest of eternity. Plus, I could flip this condo and make a bundle, right? So we got to get rid of her. So basically, the city went through, I don't want to say they declared war on the cemeteries, but they actually did. They banned, in the early 1900s, they banned any new burials within San Francisco city limits.
So, like, there was a hard date of no more people can be buried in the city after today.
The city actually passed in the year 1900. They passed, a law saying no more evictions by a certain date in 1901. So in 1901, the city of San Francisco was like, you got to go. You can take your big dead corpse somewhere, but it can't be here.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here kind of thing.
They forced a mass eviction of corpses from San Francisco. But those bodies had to go somewhere, right?
Well, so that's two different things, I think. First, it was no more burials in city limits.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, well, what do we do about all the bodies that we do have?
Exactly.
Because we want this land for development.
Absolutely. They first put it to the people of San Francisco saying, you know, it's a big old health hazard because you have a lot of cemeteries, and cemeteries weren't like they are now. They weren't really kept up. People had to, basically like universities, they had to endow money to cemeteries to keep them up. So if you look at historical photos of the cemeteries like Laurel Hill and places like that in San Francisco, a lot of vandalism happened. People would just go in there because I get it. It was 1900. People were angry. There was nothing to do. HBO wasn't invented yet.
They were dirty. They were hungry.
They were going in there and they were just kicking over tombstones. If you look at pictures, I mean, you'll find a lot of images where tombstones and things like that, like mausoleums that had big brass doors because people, you know, wanted to be kept in. They're like, this is my family and we've got money, so we want to be kept in this nice mausoleum. People stole the doors.
Wow.
Just stole them right off the hinges. And they were like, they didn't care, you know?
So San Francisco says, okay, we resolved new dead bodies coming in, but what are we going to do with the million dead bodies that we currently have?
Yeah. Weirdly enough, and here's the thing, it didn't happen all at one time. There were legal fights even back then compared to now. You know, people were like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, Grandmama Josephine is here. Like, and I paid for her thing. Like, you owe me some kind of, you know, payment.
Well, and I imagine it could be a little traumatic too. I mean, to have your dead loved one's body dug up and moved.
Back then, these places were segregated as well. Catholics and Protestants and even cultures and ethnicities, they were all divided up, especially the Catholic churches and around the Mission area of San Francisco. That was like the beginning of the city. They put on a huge legal fight. So these things were happening, but at the same time, what began to happen, the eviction of the dead and the moving of the dead would actually take place over a series of decades. But they had to go somewhere. So people started looking around and going, where are we going to put all these dead bodies? We can't just dump them in the bay, even though, you know, if it was Vegas.
Well, they said that, but I wouldn't put it past some.
They would dump something in the bay later on, but it wouldn't be the bodies.
Okay.
Unnecessarily.
Okay.
Just south of San Francisco sat a city that at one time was called Lawndale. And it's about 10 miles south of San Francisco. And people looking around going, hey, there ain't nothing much out there except people growing tomatoes and stuff. Let's try our hand at that. And so
they took farmland.
They
dug up the tomatoes.
I don't know if they did. They might have just plain. You're laughing way too much for this.
This is awful. I feel terrible.
Way too much at this.
I feel terrible. I'm just picturing it though.
Colma sits on the San Francisco Peninsula. It's nestled right between Daly City and really South San Francisco. It's a beautiful, tranquil place, considering that now it's basically a giant graveyard. Mm-hmm. So that's what they did. But they had to move the body somehow. And they had to make people aware of what was going on. And so one of the stranger stories in American history begins to unfold in the year 1901. We're going to get down into it. This might not be for the faint of heart, but it is for the faint of, people that are really interested in stuff. This is a really weird story. We'll be right back. It's Unscaled Travel Show.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. Jeremy Long here with my co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
We're in beautiful Sin City, Las Vegas, in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. Check us out, unscaledtravelshow.com. Also, check us out on YouTube, where you can find a visualized version of this episode on our YouTube channel. Gets into the nitty-gritty of a little bit of Colma.
Right.
Which they call themselves the City of Souls. Some people call it the City of the Dead. I call it a fun afternoon that we had, you know.
So you and I have been to San Francisco many times, and we had never heard of Colma until
Never once.
Earlier this year. And I just stumbled across an article about it as one of the most unique towns, cities in the United States. And as soon as I told you about it, we were both like, next time we go to San Francisco, we need to stop in, because when you fly into San Francisco, you actually drive right by Colma to get from the airport to downtown San Francisco.
Yeah. And if you're on the highway and you're going to downtown San Francisco or even South San Francisco, it's a blur. Because Colma is only 2.2 miles, like square miles wide or around.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very small town. And if you just look out your window and you blink, you're going to miss it. And I think that's where the fun part is about this city, is that for a town so small, right now, it has 17 cemeteries.
The more impressive number, how many bodies are currently buried?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you look at it, the current population right now is less than 2,000.
Of living people.
Living people.
Okay. Well, I asked bodies, and you said population. So
Living people.
So less than 2,000 living people.
The estimated dead population, and I do say estimated, because as we'll find out, there were mass graves at one point. The estimated dead population of the same town with less than 2,000 people is 1.6 million.
Wow.
Dead people.
So you and I decided we were going, and we did just stop in. But part of the reason why was because when we started looking into it, we realized this town, they're kind of proud of this history.
Yeah.
What is their town slogan?
Oh, come on. It's beautiful, because I want to get a tattoo of this. The Colma's official town slogan, believe it or not, is "It's great to be alive in Colma." Being respectful of the dead and realizing these were people's real relatives and these were actual people that existed is one thing. And I, reverence and all that good stuff. But come on.
Right.
It's great to be alive in Colma. That's got to be the best official town slogan.
Right.
Which you will not find on any signs.
No.
This is the official town slogan. It's on their website. You can look it up and everything, but they are respectful enough that they don't put it on signs, because
right. We drove
Lord
around.
Almighty.
We looked for a sign that said it, and we could not find one.
We did, because we're kind of jerks, and we also have a show like this. We need the looks, right? But also, you kind of have to take it in, yes, these are people's families. And there's a lot of very famous people that have existed in American history that are buried in these places. And we will get to that. And you'll be surprised at some of the names that are actually buried out there.
I was.
So like I
said,
said,
yeah.
1.6 million dead, 17 cemeteries, including, that's not even including a pet cemetery. That is.
Which we did see.
We did see. And it is filled up to the max.
Yes.
And I saw names from the road, and it was like Oreo.
You almost started crying. You really did. I had to take
Oreo.
you.
There was Mittens. There was all kinds.
Okay, we can't talk about the pet cemetery.
Okay.
You will
I will
balk.
start crying because it's so fun.
But
it's so
this
sad.
city has
You talk.
17. A city that is only a little over 2 miles wide, long, has 17 cemeteries. And we saw it for ourselves. One cemetery just rolls into another, rolls into another. Most businesses are related to this. It was such an odd thing to see. Like, it felt like we were just in a giant cemetery. But when you do get on the main roads, you do see some regular city things. But for the most part, we would be looking out across the city from the road and just see headstones.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit unsettling.
It is unsettling. It's fun, but it's unsettling, right? And it kind of brings us back to what happened. Obviously, there were trials, there were litigations involved and everything, but by the 1910s, 1920s, the city of San Francisco ordered every single cemetery removed outside of the military ones, because that's federal land, technically. Okay, so they had to go somewhere, and they were like, there's open plots of land, let's do it. For the next 20 years, roughly 150 to 200,000 bodies were disinterred and sent south to Colma. Now, this was early 1900s, so at first it's by horse and carriage. They're digging up bodies, putting them on horse and carriage, bringing them 10 miles south, which was a task, right? By the 1940s, when it's getting to its height, it's by trucks. So it's a little bit different.
The thing that I find even more disturbing is the city who decided they wanted this land. They were going to move these bodies. They didn't just assume the cost for all this.
No.
They charged the families of the deceased to move them.
Absolutely. There are historical records of San Francisco, basically the city of San Francisco, putting out ads saying, we're going to charge you a certain amount of money. A lot of it goes back to about $10, which was a good portion of money back then. Saying like, if you give us this money, we'll move and give you a new headstone for your loved one, rebury them, you'll get a plot, you'll know where they are. A lot of families couldn't afford to move the remains, so their loved ones ended up thrown into unmarked mass graves. This also was for people that weren't claimed. Like, do you know this dude? You know this dude right here? No, nobody knows him. Fine. He's going into a mass grave too. So you kind of look at the pros and cons and kind of just the mind bending that you have to do to kind of step around the
ethical,
sanctity,
I would
the
say
ethics.
There's an ethical line that people, I say, skipped right on over to do this because of greed, basically.
And so, like, I mean, not only the bodies that were put into mass graves, but also the headstones. The headstones were reused as building material. The seawalls, the sidewalks, the landfills. Even today on Ocean Beach, where a lot of these places, a lot of tombstones were dumped, tombstones will wash up and be uncovered. As early as 2012, a tombstone became unearthed on Ocean Beach and created a stir because they were just dumped into the water to act as a breaker for the sea.
But one even as recent as the 1990s washed up.
Yeah. I just said 2012.
Oh, 2012. I thought you said that.
No. Yeah, we're going to get a lot weirder, man. Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. Jeremy along here with my co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
Check us out online, unscaledtravelshow.com. Check us out on anywhere you get your podcast fix, Spotify, Apple, anywhere like that. We do put our episodes all on there. And we have to thank all of our new subscribers and people who are just masochists. We're an award-winning show. And you guys love the punishment, I guess. We're talking about the city of the dead, the city of souls, Colma, California, right south of San Francisco. San Francisco had a population problem. Well, actually, they had a land greed problem, so they decided to kick out all the dead people. And they had to go somewhere, so they went to Colma, California. And we were talking about what did they do with a lot of these things, like the headstones and things like that. And I saw this fact that you had put in there. In 1993, I think this is the one you were mentioning before we went to break.
Yeah.
In 93, someone found a tombstone marked Jane Johnson, died 1877, used as part of the retaining wall at Buena Vista Park. She had originally been buried in Laurel Hill Cemetery. They found her tombstone, but she ended up in a mass grave. Nobody knows where her body ended up.
That's so sad.
It's kind of sad. But it's also very fascinating when you look at the times of like what we appreciate now as San Francisco. Here's a weird thing, man. In certain parts where Laurel Hill and some of these cemeteries were in the middle part of what is San Francisco today, they are, when they do construction in those areas, even to this day, they find remains of people who weren't moved properly or who were just forgotten or overlooked or whatever. The crazier part about that, and this is where I'm going on a little tangent, the crazier part about that is that they'll find plumbing and different things that have happened over the last 100+ years from those time, where the plumbers or the masons, the whoever was working, didn't even bother to move the bones. They sometimes have pipes that go through bones.
Oh my goodness.
Where they were just like, let's put it all together and let's just like move on. And no one cared.
I think it goes back to greed because you find remains. That's going to stop a construction project. So just don't tell anybody. We'll just lay this pipe right on top of the body. And
today there would be whole things, right? They would call everyone. You would have to stop. You'd have to get everything moved out. But in say 1930, when they're moving things about, what would it take for a foreman to just walk over and be like, hey, we don't have time to stop. So you just need to make it work and just move on. It's almost like they didn't just erase the dead. They paved them. They paved over them.
And of all the times we've been to San Francisco, it never occurred to me that the only cemetery we've ever seen was the military cemetery at the Presidio. And we've been all over that city.
Yeah.
I just didn't even think about it. But we've been to other cities like New Orleans, for instance, that their cemeteries are part of their heritage and they are very proud of them. So reading all this and then going there now with this in mind, when we went 2 months ago, I saw it completely different. I saw San Francisco as more of this, I don't want to say heartless city, but a place that didn't value life the way that some other places have. And then you go 10 miles down the road to Colma and they're like, they're welcome here. We'll take them.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing about Colma, because it is the city that is built around, even the foundations of the businesses and everything we kind of mentioned earlier, that it's all built around the taking care of the dead. They have totally leaned into it. Most of the businesses you'll see in Colma when you drive through there, like now you see, I think we saw like some Home Depots and some fast food places. Obviously, there's still people that live there, about, like I said, a little less than 2,000 people. But at the same time, most of the main businesses on the main streets, if you pay attention, florist shop, tombstone engravers, monument engravers, mortuaries. I mean, everything just kind of leans in that direction because they know what they are and they know what they do.
Yeah, and even when we were there, you and I stopped in the market to pick up a snack because we'd been traveling all day. And do you remember the lady in front of us was on the phone with someone, and she had driven into Colma because it was the anniversary of a loved one's death, I guess. And she was there buying flowers, and she was on the phone with someone telling them that's where she was. And she was kind of mad that they hadn't come with her. Yeah. But it's like, I guess, not just San Francisco, but the entire area. Like, this is, even to this day, this is where the cemeteries are. This is where the whole Bay Area preserves their loved ones. And
they are well aware of it too. For a very long time in their city, ordinances and laws and things, they're very tight about who they allow to build, businesses in their area, what they can do, all of these things they put in place because they're very quiet. It's a very quiet town, very respectful. And even though we're having laughs about it because it is an absurd kind of thing. It's something you don't really think about, a major city needing somewhere to keep its non-living residents.
Right.
But most of the homes, when we're looking around, are tucked between cemeteries.
I don't really remember seeing that many homes.
Yeah. Some of their backyards, a lot of their backyards literally face rows and rows and rows of tombstones. And they do not market themselves as a ghost experience. You won't see ghost tours. They're very restrictive about that, but there are a lot of local legends.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the things you probably see at night or what you think your mind sees at night of just what happens. Because even when we were out there kind of roaming around, do you remember the just flock of like ravens?
Yes.
That just lended to this kind of eerie sense that even though it's the middle of the daytime, nothing's happening and nothing's going wrong or whatever. But there
were ravens everywhere.
There were everywhere. Which, it's kind of crazy.
I will say these cemeteries are probably the most beautifully kept cemeteries I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
They were watering
immaculate,
them, taking care of them. They were lovely in a very sad way. Mm-hmm. And the juxtaposition of airplanes flying overhead from SFO was just, it was kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Keep it right here. We're talking about Colma, California, City of the Dead. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. Jeremy Long here with my co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
We're in Sin City, Las Vegas in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. We're talking about the City of the Dead, or maybe the City of Souls, depending on how you view it. Colma, California. It's a very unique story. Mm-hmm. San Francisco needed places. They needed homes. They needed places for businesses. And they had a lot, like I said, they had about, at one time, somewhere close to 30 cemeteries within San Francisco. The gold rush and everything that happened after that. I mean, people were all over the place. You were walking down the street, just dead bodies. They got to go somewhere.
Right.
There can't be any streets anymore.
And I mistakenly said earlier they moved 1 million bodies out. No, at the time they moved, what was it, something like 200,000 bodies, but they've continued to bury their dead there. So now Colma is over 1 million.
Yeah. So most of the time now, like if you live in San Francisco and someone departs the earth, where are they going to be buried? Unless they're military and need to go to some type of situation like that, they're going to Colma or somewhere else in the surrounding areas.
So we were talking about how well maintained all the cemeteries are, because this is the business of Colma and you don't want to say death is their business, but that is the industry there. I mean, we drove down the main road and I think I counted just 4 florists in a 2-block area. There were 2 different places to get headstones. Yeah. Just it was like every other business was something to do with the funeral business, basically. And
it's like floral, headstones, Jack in the Box.
Right.
Floral.
And then we turned down one road and there was a Home Depot, as you said, and a car dealership. And it was a little bit jarring, I would say.
The living got to move around.
Right. But, this is what they do. And you came across a place that has been in the city for a very long time and has deep roots in the city and has a history of where people go to toast their loved ones after they've passed away. Right.
Like in the heart of the city on El Camino Drive, you'll find a place called Malloy's. Malloy's is the oldest continuously operated business in the city, I believe. It wasn't always this place called Malloy's. I think it was a hotel.
It was a hotel
at one point. But now it is it's a bar and I think they have some food that they serve or whatever, but it's usually a place where people will gather for wakes, for life celebrations, for whatever, but they've leaned into it. Mm-hmm. You can go there and enjoy a drink after work, but you can also go there and toast your loved one and send them, to the afterlife with some Jack, I guess.
And when you say they've leaned into it, we went in and along many of the walls are the memorandums that you get at funerals with someone's, name and information about them, photos, and these are tacked up all over the walls when you first walk in. So they really do, I guess, value that business and that being part of that experience.
And it's a place with a long history. Mm-hmm. It has a very long history. So they have a lot of historical moments, front page newspapers, World War II, different things that have happened around San Francisco, from the Great Earthquake in 1906 to different fires and different even characters just from the city. If you know anything about Emperor Norton from San Francisco.
They had a whole shrine to Emperor Norton.
They have a whole shrine. And one of the original plaques that was in San Francisco has been rehomed in Molloy's, and it's right there on the wall to Emperor Norton. And if you don't know who Emperor Norton is, well, there's a thing called Google. Use Google, and it will bring up information for you. But it is one of these places where people gather all the time to just celebrate. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were kind of laughing the absurdity that the town motto is, it's great to be alive in Colma. Well, this is a place, one of the few places in town that you get to be alive and celebrate the fact that you're alive, or, celebrate the memory of a loved one. And Molloy's, I think, is a place that if you go to Colma, check out. Go in there. We had a couple of drinks. There was a taco truck next door.
Yeah, in front of it.
We got some tacos, and we just looked at the wall just was covered and stuff.
There was stuff
different
history or newspaper articles from World War I on there. All just very large historical moments captured in actual newspaper print on the walls, and then old photos of San Francisco as it has changed over the years, and even
incredible history.
Even Colma, we could have stayed in there for hours looking at all the different pictures on the wall, and unfortunately we had to move on. And then right across the street, we walked across the street because we saw some signage for something, and it's actually a display that talks about the history of the city. And even one of the placards, I thought it was odd, but it makes sense at the time. It talks about their water system, and when you realize they have to water all this grass for all these cemeteries, that's a big deal.
It's a huge.
It was
huge
odd
thing.
Until you really started thinking about it, and it all ties in together.
One of their residents, famously, I think in the 70s, said to KQED, one of the wonderful radio stations around there, just clearing up rumors, we're not creepy, we're just surrounded. And they are surrounded, but they embrace it.
Well, and I don't want people to think that we're being disrespectful. We did go to several of the cemeteries and walk around, and that was one of the things you and I were a little bit aware of, and try to keep in mind that these are people's loved ones, and we're here to understand the story, understand how this happened, and how it's had a whole town has been created around this. Because at the time, as you said, this was farmland. This was people weren't really living here, and now it's become a home to less than 2,000 people. But the entire area, this is part of their family, because that's where their family ends up after they've departed. So we are joking about it, but walking around, it was very sad.
Was it?
It was. I mean, when we really stop and read the headstones, it was sad.
Yeah, there was. Keep it right here, Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. Jeremy along here with my co-host and co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
Coming to you from Sin City, Las Vegas in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. We're talking about Colma, California. Has a population of about less than 2,000 living residents and about 1.6 million dead residents. It is one of the more unique cities that you will find in the United States. It's not the only city of the dead, and we'll get to some that you can also find around the world if you're into paranormal or dark history or dark tourism. Although always be respectful. Okay. We're not telling you to go there and do anything weird. Just like be respectful of it. We mentioned like before we went to break, you were talking about how, it is kind of sad and you won't find a whole lot of ghost tours and things like that because they are very protective of what they do there because it is a city built on housing the dead. But there are places, there are so many cemeteries, Cypress Lawn and Hills of Eternity. And, we talked about the Pet Cemetery, but I believe when we were going into called Holy Cross Catholic Cemetery,
Yes.
they did have a bus on there. Do you remember the bus?
Yes.
I think it was put in the barn when we were there.
Yes,
but they do have a bus that I think will occasionally, I think they have tours that they will go around to some of the more famous dead residents that they have in their cemetery. And between Holy Cross, Cypress Lawn, Hills of Eternity, a few others like that, they do have some very big names. And we did search for who we could find that would make that list. And we came across some pretty big ones. So it's not like they are keeping stuff from people. Obviously, cemeteries through business hours are open and you can go pay your respects the way you need to or want to. But you just need to be aware.
Yeah, there was one cemetery that we didn't go in because we could see there was a funeral.
There was
happening,
an
active funeral happening. So we just didn't even go to that one, and we went to another. The first one we went to, there were a couple of people there that you really wanted to see their headstones because you've recently done research on them and stories. And just to lighten the mood a little bit, they were watering the cemetery when we were there.
They were.
And
they were.
They
were cutting the grass.
They were cutting the grass and watering it at the same time. And we were wandering up and down. The cemetery was kind of cut into blocks. And we're wandering up and down the rows. And at one point, the sprinkler started chasing me and hit me in the back of the head. And you yelled at me to turn and run the other way. But I thought I'll just hide behind this very large tombstone in front of me, not realizing that's the same direction that the sprinkler was shooting. So I just continued to get more and more wet at this cemetery.
I'm trying to be respectful of the place that we're in. And here you are yelling curse words. Cursing the water sprinklers.
I am not proud of how I behaved in the moment, but yes, that did happen.
Kicking headstones.
I did not kick any headstones. I did duck behind one, but I didn't kick any.
That was the Hills of Eternity Memorial Park. And they have some very famous residents.
They do.
In the Hills of Eternity Memorial Park. A couple of those that we came across, we've done, if you check out our YouTube channel, we've done videos on some of these people, like Levi Strauss. Everyone has a pair of jeans that are Levi's. And the man who marketed and patented those jeans, Levi Strauss, is buried there. His whole family has a mausoleum in the Hills of Eternity. And just a couple of rows away is the man who actually invented blue jeans in Reno, Nevada, Jacob W. Davis.
Very stark difference between Levi Strauss's giant mausoleum and Jacob Davis's very modest headstone.
I mean, I did the story, so I know, the difference in what happened. One died with a fortune of $30 million back in 1908. The other one died, he had a good job.
He ran the factory.
But he didn't get the credit that he was due. And you can see it between this giant mausoleum, and then within eye shot is a guy who's kind of buried, in a plain looking grave with his wife and some of his, kin and everything, but within eye shot.
Yeah.
And then a few rows over is one guy some people may have heard of if you know anything about the Wild West, but that's Wyatt Earp.
Yeah.
Wyatt Earp and his wife Josephine are buried just a few rows over, and you would just be like, what?
And the placement of their headstone seems odd. Part of what was unusual to me was that you would think when these were moved over, they would kind of be grouped together chronologically. But there were people who had passed away in the 1800s, right next to somebody who passed away in 1970, right next to somebody who passed away in 1920. It was a little bit random, it felt, in that aspect. But in other aspects, you had talked earlier about how cemeteries were segregated, and a lot of these were. There was a Catholic cemetery. There was an Italian-American cemetery, something like that. Mm-hmm. There was a Chinese cemetery.
Yep.
And so that part was very orderly, but just the layout of the headstones seemed a little bit haphazard almost.
Yeah.
And Wyatt Earp's was right there, and it's a lovely headstone surrounded by other people who have died more recently, more elaborate headstones. It felt a little bit wrong, maybe.
A little bit. I mean, but if you look at it, if you do some research, and again, if you go to Google and look at some historical images, you can see they have taken pictures where they have literally laid down, it looks like 2x4s in rows, about like 6.5 feet tall or whatever, standard size for people, and just laid them all down one aisle so they don't like start zigzagging with the dead, with the burial plots and everything. But like you said, at the same time, you have Wyatt Earp and his wife. Wyatt Earp died in the early 1900s. His wife died a few years after that. And then someone else right next to him is from 1970 or 1980. Mm-hmm. So if I have a choice.
You want to be buried next to Wyatt Earp?
Absolutely.
Or you want to go to, is it Colorado where Doc Holliday's?
Oh, that would be a good one too. Yeah. He's buried in Colorado. One of those guys.
Are you proud of me for knowing that, though?
Yes, I actually. Actually, you know what? Cremation, put a little bit right there on Wyatt Earp, and then Doc Holliday.
Got it.
I'm assuming you're going to outlive me because you are.
Who knows?
Anyway, a lot of famous people out there that, otherwise you wouldn't really, you would be like, what? This doesn't make sense. The heirs to Folgers. Coffee.
Yeah.
They're out there. William Randolph Hearst, who started the newspaper, Hearst newspapers and Hearst Media, that's still around to this day, has a huge mausoleum out at Holy Cross. Also in Holy Cross, the Yankee Clipper, Joe DiMaggio. We actually stopped by Joe DiMaggio's final resting place. And he has a nice little corner lot. That's all I kept thinking. It was like, he has a nice little corner lot right here. And people still... I think he died in 99, and he still has people. There are baseballs.
Mm-hmm. There was a row of baseballs in front of it.
Row of baseballs.
And while we were there, that family stopped on the road.
Yeah.
And the dad was pointing out to his kids, oh, look, it's Joe DiMaggio's headstone.
Yeah, his kids are probably like, I don't care, old man.
They're
but
like, why are we in a cemetery?
He's like, this is a big deal. Wyatt Earp on his cemetery, people had left shots.
Yeah.
Shots of different whiskeys and coins and things like that. So there's so many famous ones. And even we mentioned Emperor Norton earlier. He's buried out there. There are so many that have, if you have any big tie to San Francisco or the surrounding areas, I think Hearst died in Beverly Hills and he's buried out there. So there's a lot going on, man. I love this place so much. Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. Jeremy Long here with my co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
We're in Sin City, Las Vegas in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios, talking about Colma, California, the city of souls, the city of the dead, where less than 2,000 living residents share space with 1.6 million dead residents. We talk about, the thing keeps sticking out in my mind is almost generational mourning severed by a city vote. And really how not only the United States, I mean, this is directly involved. This is a United States city and everything, but how we see the dead versus the respect for, progress and people have to move on and move forward. But where does all that go and what does all that mean? My grandpappy would say, is nothing sacred. Is nothing sacred at all anymore. And that was usually if I didn't cut the grass, but
Well, I was going to say, we live in Las Vegas. Most people who visit Vegas have never seen a cemetery here. So they're probably thinking,
do we have
We actually live
here?
not far from a cemetery, but we have almost 20 cemeteries in the city.
Wow.
They are just away from the touristy areas. And I get San Francisco saying, we need to reclaim some of this land, but I'm a little bit like, shame on you for saying, you know what? We don't want any of these people here. I mean, I think there's a way, and as we said, I think there's 2 remaining cemeteries in San Francisco. But I think a little bit they went overboard. They could have maybe left some of the more historical ones, something. But Colma welcomed all of their deceased residents with open arms.
Yeah.
Which maybe is a little unusual in the U.S.
Yeah, they have to go somewhere. And I think when you kind of look at it, I've been to cemeteries out in the country of in the country, East Texas, where they have a lot of land. So I kind of look at it and go, okay, San Francisco didn't have that much land. If you've ever been to San Francisco or heck, just pull it up on a map right now. It's not a very big area. It's on a peninsula. It's obviously waterlocked around a lot of areas. So when you have at that point, and if you do any research on the gold rush of 1849 and see how many even ships they left in the harbors when people would it was cheaper to let the ship just sit in the harbor and rot and fall apart than it was to actually do anything with it. And during the gold rush time, you'll see a picture of the bay just filled up with ships that eventually they would go through and just break these ships apart or blow them up or whatever. So they had to do something. And if everything is sacred, then there can be no progress as far as a city with very little land. So you can kind of see both sides.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, I think the way they went about it, we mentioned earlier about how they just kind of farmed the movement of these things to the lowest bidder.
And then charged the families to do it.
That's good old American capitalism right there.
But think about it. If your family tree had died out, there was nobody to pay the $10 to move you and your other family that was buried. So sorry, you all just end up in a mass grave together.
And that's a very real thing. Like Colma and other places, not just there, a few other cities around San Francisco have mass graves where, they just kind of placed bodies like, sorry, we got to move on with it. So Colma, I think, in itself is a case study in how the U.S., or at least how modern people prioritize land and progress over legacy.
Right.
Which for a lot of people, like we've gone back and forth. We've had laughs about the absurdity of it. We've also had serious moments in just this episode where we're kind of like, man, that is a little it's a little cold-blooded what they
Yeah.
did and what other people do. But I mean, when you compare a situation like this to other places that celebrate the dead, Mexico, Japan, Italy, that have these huge celebrations about respecting, your ancestors and what do you do there? I mean, that would be a huge ordeal. Although I'm sure there are stories in every civilization where you have to kind of bulldoze the memory in favor of moving forward.
Maybe so. I think this is more, as you said, talking about modern day cities in the U.S. and how a lot of these cities, they want to cram as many people in as small as place as possible to make more money. And I think it does come down to greed a lot.
Think about Manhattan.
Yeah.
Manhattan, Boston, places like that. There are a few that I think are sacred that they have had fights over the years that like, we're not moving these bodies. And San Francisco did too. The Mission District where the city started, I think, because it was Catholic land and, those kind of things. They didn't move any bodies, but they went to the legal system to not do that. If you walk around Manhattan, there's not a whole lot of cemeteries.
No, there's not.
Okay, they've moved them out to other places. But when I was writing everything down, I was doing the research, I was thinking like, okay, Mexico has Dia de los Muertos and Japan has all the altars and, the shrines
yeah.
and all of that. And then you get to the U.S.
We don't
and
have
they're
anything.
basically like, get the corpses out of my condo development zone.
Well, and I think the most supporting evidence of that is this isn't the only town where people in the U.S. have decided we need to just move the bodies out of here.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned New Orleans. New Orleans, if you've never been, go there. But they do have more things where they're like, okay, there's ghost tours, there's voodoo tours, you can walk amongst the cemeteries and everything, where they have to put their mausoleums up above ground because the city itself is below sea level. And anytime it floods in that city, hurricanes or anything like that, they have some situation with maybe floating things. Okay, I'm not going to gross people out, but like even here in Nevada, there's Pioche. Pioche has a population of less than 1,000 people. Their estimated burials in that area, 10 times that. So you have this area that if they were lucky, if the city itself hadn't progressed to the point it did, which it was a mining town that kind of burned out. And now there's a very small amount of people there. What were they going to have to do? Because the population of the dead vastly outnumbered the living, and in very good real estate along the roads where Pioche is here in Nevada.
In Pioche, you were telling me they did at one point move the graveyards because the town was growing, because it was a mining community and it was expanding, and they had more people die moving graves than they did in the gunfights. And this was considered the most lawless town in Nevada.
Yeah.
Like, what was happening moving these graves that people were dying?
I don't know. People were so upset.
I need you to dig into this. I want to know, like, how are they dying moving graves?
Yeah, it kind of does go back to very real things that are, we talked about at the beginning about disease and things like that. When people aren't properly buried or not, we have regulations now. Like, that's why they call it, oh, you got to put them 6 feet down and all of these other things that go into modern, like, keeping of dead and things like that. That other people, sometimes if you were poor, things like that, you were just buried in a shallow grave. And a shallow grave could be a foot deep. It could be 6 inches deep.
I'm sorry if our listeners have to listen to all of this. It is a bit morbid.
It's a bit different than the sunny, hey, check out this brew pub. Like, no, this is a little bit different. And not to paint a bad light on Colma, I think it's a very fascinating city. I think in 2024, it celebrated its 100th year as Colma. It was originally called Lawndale, and they changed the name. And I think Colma means like, sunshine or something.
Well, I was reading the whole area out there was called Colma, and then Lawndale sat in it, and eventually they renamed Lawndale Colma, and then other towns started popping up. You mentioned Daly City and a few others. All of that area was Colma at one point.
Yeah. And there are all kinds of things. I mean, there's the catacombs in France and Paris, and there's the place in the Czech Republic. That's, the Bone Church.
Yeah.
Where chandeliers and altars and everything else are made from bones. And it's a different situation. It's like, I don't know. Colma is fascinating.
It is.
I think at the very last, people should go check out. If you're going to San Francisco,
You
make
should
the time to
see
go check it out.
Yeah, every cemetery was different too. So they all had a unique feel to it.
It's the Unscaled Travel Show. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next time.